Hey friends, Carmel Holt here. As you know, times are tough for public radio and audio. And as a tiny independent feminist production company that makes SHEROES for public radio and for this podcast, we're getting hit pretty hard with financial shortfalls. Simultaneously, this is a moment where women, trans folks, non-binary, and queer folks need a safe space to be heard. And at SHEROES, we're more committed than ever before to our mission of turning up the volume of underrepresented voices in music. But to keep going, I need your help. And I have big news. SHEROES has partnered with the nonprofit AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio, and we've launched our very first fundraising campaign. You can text SHEROES to 53555 to make a tax-deductible donation through AIR or visit SHEROESradio.com. Thank you for supporting independent, femme-queer-produced audio and storytelling like the episode that you're about to enjoy. It's up to us whose voices get heard, and with your help, we'll keep turning up the volume.
I really wanted to do something very different than my Americana, roots rock sounding album, singer-songwriter stuff. And in that moment, I was confronted with a lot of people saying, I love Failure, your first record, was this for me and was that for me. And at the time, that really bothered me because I wanted to show that I had grown so much since then. And I was doing all this work that I was really proud of today. And I felt like that person was sort of saying, but I liked you then. They weren't, but that's how it made me feel. And now when I play a song from, my first, second, or third record and I see somebody's face and I'm playing the song that they came to hear or that they know, and it does that thing, it transports them to this moment in their life. I mean, I can relate. I have those too. That is a fulfilling, life-affirming moment. It is the drug that keeps me playing shows while I wheel my goddamn heavy suitcase in through the fucking Hampton Inn and the elevator's broken. Like, that is the thing.
That was Kathleen Edwards, and this is SHEROES, a weekly podcast to amplify women, non-binary, and genderqueer voices in music across genres and generations. We believe that sharing our stories is the first step to making music better for everyone. I'm Carmel Holt. The last time I caught up with Kathleen Edwards, it was March of 2024, and we were both in Austin for South by Southwest. We hadn't seen each other for a while. And that was partially due to the fact that her last album, Total Freedom, arrived a few months before SHEROES Radio launched in 2020. But it was also because this 7-time Juno Award and 2-time Polaris Prize-nominated Canadian singer and songwriter did what so few artists of her caliber and renown do. She quit her music career in 2012, and she started a coffee shop called Quitters. It was a big deal that Kathleen was back at South by Southwest, where in 2002 she had signed to Rounder Records. And just to give you an idea of how quickly her career took off from there, the U.S. release of her debut, Failure, came out on January 14th of 2003, and literally 3 days later, she was making her television debut on Late Night with David Letterman. The years that followed brought one amazing album after another. 2005's Back to Me, 2008's Asking for Flowers, and then Voyager in 2012, and the aforementioned 2020 comeback album, Total Freedom. Earlier this year, she put out a collection of covers, and then in August, Kathleen released her 6th full-length album of original material called Billionaire, the collection that she was just hinting at when we last had her here on SHEROES, produced by Jason Isbell. She's been out on tour in support of the new album and was kind enough to make a stop on her way through to talk about Billionaire and so much more. I'm so thrilled to welcome back our friend Kathleen Edwards as this week's SHERO in the Spotlight. Kathleen Edwards, welcome back to SHEROES.
Carmel.
I'm so happy to see you.
This is so nice. Truly, I have a day off in between 2 shows. And, I travel with a lot of men. They are part of my support system, and I could not do it without them. They're extraordinary. But it's so nice to run into a woman who I know, who I feel we have, we can sort of decompress of the moments that are challenging in this life and feel like we will part ways just a little better.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I'm so glad that we got to do this in person, too.
Yes.
So you've been out on the road in support of this amazing new album. I love Billionaire so much.
Thank you, Carmel. I love it too. I'm really proud of it. It gives me goosebumps to think it's out, and, you know, it was a challenging few years to make it. And so it feels like, you know, it's a victory. It's a victory that it came out at all.
Should we dive right in?
Sure. Yeah, dive.
Can you tell us the story? Tell us the story of how Billionaire came to be.
Well, I put out my last record, Total Freedom, terribly named for the release in 2020. 2020. It was literally like, you know, it's because I'm a marketing genius.
Yes.
And it was a tough couple years to be in a lot of lines of work, including being a person who requires, you know, people to come out and see live music.
Yeah.
So I didn't really do an album release, and it was sort of a bit of a hangover. I went and did a bunch of shows, and they were all wonderful. It was so great to re-emerge from the great hibernation. And then I was really ready to write a bunch of new songs, because when I wrote Total Freedom, it was 2018, 2019.
Wow.
And, you know, you spend a year or two recording, submitting your music, tweaking, doing all the things that are required to put out a body of work. And so I rolled into 2023, and on the last day of my, what I would call maybe like quote unquote a touring cycle or something like that, I was in Athens, Georgia. And I was supposed to play my last show that night, and my phone rang at 6 a.m. and oof. And I got a call that my beautiful friend Amanda had died in the night. She died the day before very suddenly from a brain aneurysm. And
Jesus.
Yeah, 26. She was the heartbeat of this business I had started called Quitters Coffee. And truly, I still think one of the reasons I opened that business and moved home was so I could meet her. Because she was just became like a little sister to me, and she made such an incredible impact in my life. And so I got this call, and of course I went home. And it took a couple of weeks, months to sort of come down from the shock of her passing, and to just take some time as well from having been on the road, which is a very intense pace. And I wrote the song Billionaire, which is about this incredible person. And I'm sure everyone has that experience with grief, where one of the cruelties of losing someone, no matter where they are in their life, your memories and your feelings about that person, you know, for someone that you love, it's so hard to quantify the love that you have for somebody that you've lost. And I thought about the millions of people who would never meet Amanda, and how terrible that is. And the millions of photos that are sitting in her phone of her beautiful face. And so I wrote this song that tried to say that, you know, in life, she enriched my life so much that I became a billionaire just to know her. And so that became one of the sort of landmark moments to write a new record that I'm very proud of. And, you know, I ended up writing almost 20 songs. Billionaire only has 10 on it. And I didn't have a manager at the time. I was kind of scrambling to figure out where I would make my next record. I'm signed to Dualtone Records, and I had a great booking agent. But a manager is sort of your bedrock into having somebody go, here is the plan. Let's go do it together. And out of the blue, I ended up recording a series of cover songs, sort of as a interim, how am I going to navigate the next few years? And I recorded a Jason Isbell song, Traveling Alone. And I sent it to his manager, Tracy Thomas, who has always been an ally of mine. I feel that she's such a busy and successful and incredibly important music manager, because women in music who are successful are leaders, and they help mentor so much. The trickle-down effect is real. So I sent it to her, and she so kindly forwarded it to Jason. And then Jason messaged me a few days later to say that he really loved my cover of his song, which was incredibly humbling. And so we just chit-chatted for a minute, and he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I have a new record ready to record, but I don't have a plan. Do you know any good producers? And he was like, I'll produce it. And I honestly didn't think he was serious.
Yeah.
But then Tracy followed up a few days later and said, all right, let's book this. So I was like, okay, he wasn't joking. He wants to do this. And so in September of 24, I went to Sound Emporium Studios, and he brought with him Gina Johnson, who has worked with so many incredible producers, but also incredible artists, and now in her own right is an extraordinary producer of her own and truly world-class recording engineer, mixer. And we got to work. And I found it to be a challenging record to make. I didn't know anyone in the room when I walked in the door on the first day.
Wow.
Which is terrifying. And everybody played incredibly, as I knew they would. Jason picked an incredible group of people to support me. And by February of this year, 2025, the record was mixed and done.
Holy shitballs.
Okay, sorry. Were you looking for the short answer?
No, never.
So that's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot there to unpack. I want to go to another song.
Let's do Say Goodbye, Tell No One.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you want to tell us before we go in?
Well, that was one of the songs I wrestled with the most in terms of figuring out how it was supposed to go, because I reworked that song a million times. And then one day I was listening to Harmonium's Dream by the War on Drugs. I was just driving somewhere. And originally the chorus was actually the verse, and the verse was the chorus.
Oh, wow.
And when there's a sort of bridge part of Harmonium's Dream that kind of breaks down, and all of a sudden I was singing the hardest part about the truth is saying something that might have hurt you in those chord progressions. And I was like, there's my chorus. And so I figured out how to, structure Say Goodbye, Tell No One. And Say Goodbye, Tell No One was sort of like the song I wrote after I had closed my coffee shop, which was a very challenging time. It was very hard to decide to sell that business and to close the doors and to take down the quitter sign and to leave. It was hard. It was hard for many reasons. One of the things about being a business owner that I found hard was you have to be the bad guy a lot, because your business is a reflection of you, and you create the culture in your own business. And when people are not prepared to meet you where the opportunities that you want to give them, you have to let them go. And the part I disliked the most as a boss was that, because I want to empower people and be a positive person. And so I think it was a song about knowing that I always showed up and I always gave people the benefit of the doubt and I always did my best. And sometimes that means having to let other people go in order to achieve that.
Say Goodbye, Tell No One, track 2 from the new Kathleen Edwards album, Billionaire. She's our guest today on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. This is album 6,
yeah.
Right?
7 with the covers, but those aren't my songs, so let's say 6.
Yeah. Does that feel good to say?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when I just had Failure, I'm playing the Bowery Ballroom tomorrow night in New York, and I played there when Failure came out. Our set was 45 minutes because I only had 10 songs.
Right.
So to be at a point where I actually have my shows like an hour and a half and we're still cutting so many songs that I'd love to play every night. It's very cool.
How does it feel to occupy those old songs now? I mean, I'm sure some of them must have taken on some new meaning. And then also they're kind of transportive. It's the best time travel tool, songs.
It so is. When I put out my 4th record, Voyager,
yeah,
I had made it with Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, and it was sonically a real departure, I think. And I really wanted to do something very different than sort of my Americana, roots rock sounding album, singer-songwriter stuff. And in that moment, I was confronted with a lot of people saying, I love Failure. Your first record, was this for me and was that for me. And at the time, I was like, that really bothered me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show that I had grown so much since then. And I was doing all this work that I was really proud of today.
Yeah.
And I felt like that person was sort of saying, but I liked you then.
Right.
They weren't, but that's how it made me feel. And now when I play a song from, my first, second, or third record and I see somebody's face and I'm playing the song that they came to hear or that they know, and it does that thing. It transports them to this moment in their life.
Yeah.
I mean, I can relate. I have those too.
Yeah.
That is a fulfilling, life-affirming moment. It is the drug that keeps me playing shows while I wheel my goddamn heavy suitcase in through the fucking Hampton Inn and the elevator's broken. Like, that is the thing.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful for that experience. And yes, that nostalgic. I'm so proud of the person I was. And I'm so thrilled that people want to hear those songs. It's just, honestly, it doesn't seem real. I feel like we're talking about someone else when that happens, you know?
There's something about leaving and coming back, but coming back on your own terms that I find so inspiring. The idea that you did what you needed to do in both of those moments and you quit and then you returned, but on your own terms.
Yeah.
How has it helped you, I guess is the question.
Well, one way that it really helped was I was able to not be the person who felt only had one identity, which was to be this musician person. And by leaving that and having a coffee shop where every day most of the people who walked in the door were not there to talk to me about music or to see me. They were there to enjoy a coffee and see a friend and eat a good cookie or get a break from something in their life.
Yeah.
And that just kind of cleared out the cobwebs of my own, not just my ego, but to give me some new part of my identity or some new part of accomplishment that I built a place that was that for somebody. And I found that really meaningful. And then when I wanted to make music again, as anyone who runs a small business knows, Quitters was open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., if not later. It was like a wasp's nest of intense work, and I could not do both. I tried. I could not do both, and I had to, despite maybe some of the business setbacks that COVID brought to the table in terms of helping my decision to leave Quitters and to close it. One thing I knew was unsustainable was I desperately wanted to have all this time for music again, but I was so busy with running this coffee shop. And so I fought, and I had to actively choose to get rid of Quitters so that I could be in music full time. Because there would be times where I'd play a show or have a project, and I would just be so overstretched. And I dreamt of the version where I would come back and actually have music be the thing I could focus entirely on, which is an incredible privilege to be able to say that I had that opportunity, or that there may be enough opportunities that could be possible. And so I think I really had to fight to get rid of all the things so that music could be my singular focus. You know, when Failure came out, I couldn't keep a job because I had to go away all the time. And this time I got rid of my job because I actively was like, I really want to make this full time. So it's a slightly different approach, you know. One was circumstantial and one was an active choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the part that I think is just so empowering, you know?
Well, it was a big risk.
Yeah.
I like anything. And the quitting music really gave me the chance to realize not only do I have this thing that is really the sort of the North Star of my being, which is songwriting and storytelling and performing. And I didn't realize how much I love connecting with people. I'm an introvert, so I go home and I want to be left the fuck alone.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing this, it's so meaningful. And I think it's meaningful for others. And a lot of times people talk about, you know, arts jobs being sort of a privilege or that they're not essential and this and that. Well, I can tell you that never before has it been more true, especially in the era of us connecting through a screen, that face-to-face connection and finding ways to stay connected to our humanity is so important. And for me, my vehicle is writing songs and playing music and getting all the vulnerable things out and feeling like I can do that on behalf of somebody else too. I mean, I don't mean to say that in any presumptuous way, but I've seen it. And like, I'm thrilled to do that. It's not easy some days, but I'm very happy to do it. And it brings a lot of meaning to my life.
I want to talk a little bit more about the scenario that you described earlier of, working with Jason Isbell, how that all came together, which was pretty amazing. Very like Kismet kind of a story. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for bringing Gina Johnson's name into this conversation. I was psyched as hell that she was part of this process. I also loved seeing so many women and a non-binary bass player on the credits of your album. Can we open up the conversation to talk about that and how this album differs maybe from ones that came before it, some happy accidents maybe, or intentional choices that were made that way?
Well, all credit is to be given to Jason.
Yeah.
Because he is responsible for the people who came to the studio.
Which is awesome.
So, and all of those people obviously deserve to be there on their own merit. He plucked great talent because he has high expectations, I think. And so he picks talented people to be in the room with him.
Yeah.
Gina, to your point, this was the first record I made with a woman engineer.
Yeah.
A woman mixer.
Yep.
Woman co-producer. And it was so funny I'm not in Nashville. I'm not part of a social, like there's a few people that I know in Nashville and I love all of them. They're such great people, but I'm not part of that scene. And so Gina was a new name to me as well. And as soon as I started sort of posting that I was working with her, the amount of people who inundated me with, oh my God, you're working with the best person in Nashville. And it was true. She is extraordinary. And yes, it's true that, some of the stereotypes of the music industry are very true, but an incredible amount has actually changed. And it's changing. And when I was at Sound Emporium, most of the people running that studio, it's the studio manager is a woman. A lot of the assistant engineers were women, including the one who worked on my record, Joanna.
Awesome.
And Gina sitting at the desk and producing. It was lovely. And is it overdue? Yeah, sure. But it's happening. And that is encouraging. I just did music for the Lilith Fair documentary that you will be very excited to see.
I'm getting chills. I'm so excited.
Yes, it's really cool. And you and I are of the age where we know what Lilith Fair is. We know who played on it.
Yeah.
And we know how important a festival it was in that time. And one of the things that I heard in the documentary a few times was how it was a huge first for even women becoming riggers, for being on tech staffs, for being in support roles, when traditionally, rock tours are staffed by dudes. And the shift happened, it's been happening for decades, and if it's been slow, it's been slow, but it's happening. And it has happened, and it is happening. And that is worth celebrating in the same way that quitting music to gain some perspective on how much I did in my past is true, I think, for even today, standing here and going, I am surrounded by extraordinary women in all aspects of my professional life now, and it is a revelation, and it's wonderful. And also, I'm surrounded by great men.
Yeah.
I really am. And I am held up by a whole group of people. And I'm very lucky, to have such extraordinary people. But, we have to show up and fight for the things that we want. And sometimes there's a shitty person in the room or someone who, is being enabled, who is challenging, who makes the room feel like we're walking on eggshells. And ultimately, you don't have to be in that room every time. The law of averages is changing. For me, it is. And maybe that doesn't feel encouraging to hear, but it is. I feel it is. But you might alienate some people along the way if you're going to say that. If you're going to choose to not work with people because their behavior is unacceptable. That's just life, And there are going to be people, regardless of their gender and their identity, who are difficult people.
Yes.
So that's just a universal thing. People can be difficult.
Right.
I'm probably difficult. We can talk about it later.
I listened to a few interviews and read some interviews on this record. I always love to do that. And something struck me in your conversation with Tom Power at Q at CBC. He was commenting on your confidence. And from his perspective, he's always felt like your songs have felt confident and self-assured and honest. And you said that it was armor.
Yeah, it was. I mean, okay, yeah.
And I was like, let's talk about the armor. And then can you point us to a song where you feel like the armor's off?
Oh, someone requested this song on the new record?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why? Were you going to say another song? Because I'm game to go wherever you want.
A couple of weeks ago, I was tagged on Watch House, formerly known as Mandolin Orange. Mm-hmm. We had done some shows together years and years ago, and they did a cover of a song from my record, Asking for Flowers. It's called Scared at Night. And it's a song about my grandmother passing and my dad's upbringing. And I wrote the song very quickly, and I played it for years. Someone requested it the other day. And so I was like, oh, that's so funny that you requested that song. This beautiful band called Watch House. I saw a live version of it, and it's so beautiful, and it was so incredibly heartening to see somebody else do the song. And then she said, will you play it? And I tried, and I couldn't. I could only make it through halfway through the song. I just couldn't collect myself. There we go. And I realized, like, oh, these songs that I wrote at a time where I didn't realize how vulnerable a place I had to go to write them is quite astounding. I really, truly shed the armor to write a song like that. And I think that's always been true in the writing moment. When I perform them, I think part of me has to embody a bit of an actor, performer, the armor, as much as possible. I haven't played Billionaire yet live, so I don't know. I've played it once or twice, and it was challenging. So I'm going to have to embody like some sort of persona character to play that song because it means the world to me. But I want to play it because I know grief is a universal feeling, and that sadness and that range of experience is also very cathartic to feel like you're seen in that moment and you have a vehicle to get through your life and the moments that are challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on the new record, Billionaire is that song. It's that song.
Right.
Yeah. Oof, it's that song.
How much of the armor do you think was you, like just you as a person, and how much of it was related to being a woman in a male-dominated space? I was just remembering more about that conversation with Tom, where you were saying about like the rock dude.
I wanted to be part of the rock dude
dudes.
clubs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to show that I could roll with the dudes.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know what to say about that, except that's just true. I mean, my hero is Ani DeFranco. And, I feel like when I was young, I looked at her and saw that she was just going to do it no matter what. She was truly herself, and she showed up as such, and there were men who were in her band and part of her team that gave her the support that she needed to go and do her thing, which was so inspiring and changed lives. And I think, the armor thing, like, I think we all have our own, obviously we have our own vulnerabilities. I still feel inadequate. All the moments where I think, like, why didn't that show sell out? The first thing I go to is I'm just not as good as the other people doing this. And that's just me being honest. Like, that's how I feel sometimes when I wish I was selling a few more 100 tickets a night. I think, well, it could also just be that I'm not that good, which is fine. I don't want to not be honest about that. That comes into my mind. I know rationally that's also not always true. There's a huge range of reasons that happens. And And, there are all these other incredible women doing incredible things in music as headliners and support acts and all sorts of things. And I always wonder, like, oh, what do they do that's exceptional? Oh, they do that. Oh, and then I realized that, you just can't be good at everything.
Yeah.
You just can't. You have to. Dan Levy said this the other night at the Lilith Fair documentary when they did a sort of a Q&A, and I really appreciated that so much. He said, Lilith Fair was proof that if there's something inside your gut that feels good, you're doing it, whether it's you're making music or you're taking a picture, whatever the creative thing is, that in your gut you feel like this is right. And someone says, no thanks, let your gut still continue to propel you forward. Like, rejection is part of life, and it is hard, and some days you manage it better than others. But the little thing in your gut that tells you it's good or that the idea is worth pursuing, do not abandon that. And that is what keeps me showing up, because I do get that all the time. And I'm so glad he said it, because nothing is just easy. You have to, I just made my 7th record. I can't believe that. But it's because I had to make my first one, and I had to make my second one, and I had to get a bunch of bad reviews, and I had to keep going. Like, that's just normal. And I also keep the people who support me close at hand, so that when I'm feeling like, am I good enough? I look at my guitar player, I'm like, that is like literally a world-class guitar player, and he plays with me. I'm okay. Good night.
Kathleen Edwards here with us on SHEROES. The new album is called Billionaire. Oh my God. I have so many favorites on this record. What's your current favorite?
When the Truth Comes Out.
Fucking love this song.
I should have called that song NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Not mine. Not mine. But yeah, that song is, look, that song, I hope it is interpreted in a billion ways. Whatever interpretation is the right interpretation, that's fine. But it's actually about a friend of mine who has basically been shunned by a whole group of people who were previously part of her chosen family, her friend group, for holding somebody accountable to something that happened to her. And that song, every night I sing it for her. She's my best friend, and she has had my back. She was one of these people when I was in a really bad relationship. I fell in love with somebody, and I absolutely continued to allow them to erode my sense of what was appropriate in a relationship in terms of boundaries. And I remember she said to me one day, something's not right. And it was the first time somebody had, if I'm being honest, the balls to tell me that. And it was my best friend. Something is not right. And then I listened to the Dirty John podcast, and I was like, oh my God, something is not right. And she was the person who helped me. And so when something different but similar happened to her, I mean, I will never abandon this friend of mine. She is extraordinary. And When the Truth Comes Out is my love letter to her, so that she feels that she is being seen, even if all the other people standing with their backs turned don't want to hear it.
Believe women.
Good night.
Good night. When the Truth Comes Out, it's track 4 on the new Kathleen Edwards album, Billionaire. She's our guest today on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. Is it okay if we talk about ageism?
Yeah.
And thank you for listening to some of the Mary Chapin conversation. I hope you finish it.
I will finish it. I listened to it yesterday morning when I was getting ready for TIFF. I was like, I need some female, I need the people who are my heroes and who make me feel like I'm in the band.
Oh my God, she's the fucking best.
She's really cool.
I love what you said to me when you walked in today, that you're like, I'm going to move to Mary Chapin's farm. And like, me too. So, yeah, I'm just fresh from that conversation and just thinking, she's 67, I think, now, which is actually not that old. I'm 52 now. And so much of that conversation resonated with me. And so much of it still, as I listen back, I spent a lot of time with it, as I do when I'm like, I do the conversation, but then, we're in it. So I'm not able to like really process it all. And then when I go back and I'm producing and I spend more time with it and listen to it over and over, and then I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, where's the meat?
Whoa. And like, we both cried. It was like crazy. Anyway, so.
Did you guys talk about Newport?
We didn't talk about Newport. Why do you bring that up?
Because it felt like a real victory lap for her to be there this year. And if we're going to talk about ageism, I thought that was a really wonderful thing to see Newport book her. I think it felt probably for her, it seemed like it felt really like a confirmation that she belonged in a group of, on a billing that is, predominantly a little bit younger and perceived as, the cool kids. I wouldn't know. I haven't been invited, which is I'm perfectly fine to be an outsider, an outlier. But it was really cool to see her booked there, and she, deserves to be. She is she is our godmother. She was at Dylan's she played at Dylan's 30th fucking anniversary concert at Madison Square Garden. Like, she is, like, she was the one woman in the room when there were none. Like, that is so impressive. Like, I can't wait to meet her and talk to her.
Oh my God, let's make that happen.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of an aside.
No, it's not. It's all part of it. So what are your thoughts? What's your vibe on
ageism?
Yeah. And just like also like being in a body that is aging, which we all are, but in this industry, which is totally youth obsessed, like so many other industries. I mean, you look fucking amazing. There's no way that people know your age, but it's nice that you openly share it. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Anyone who's feeling insecure about their age and getting older and whether or not they're still relevant, go listen to Julia Louis-Dreyfus's podcast, Wiser Than Me.
You're the one who told me to listen to that. Thank you. It's so good. Dude.
It will set you straight.
Yes.
I listened to that in a time where I was feeling very low, and it absolutely helped me feel like my age is a fucking power hand.
Yeah.
It is, because we can apply all these tools of experience for all the times we got it wrong and for the things that we got right. And this is the great thing about getting older, is sometimes we have to learn the same lesson over and over again to sort of be shook out of our lack of seeing it in a certain lens. And, I think that is the one tool we have in our toolbox as an older person. That the world isn't going to end if, someone gives me a bad review. And the world's not going to end if, I had a shitty outfit tonight, or I didn't iron my pants, or I don't have a glam squad. Does that mean I'm not going to get asked to play something cool? Maybe. But who cares? I mean, the world didn't end. And I have the people, your social circle, I think, does become smaller as you get older, because you find ways of realizing that some types of personalities in your younger life just don't fit anymore. And it's not because they're bad people. You just need to be in the presence of people who are helping you go where you want to go, because you reciprocate that for them too. And those are the tools of getting older. And yeah, we've heard a lot of women actors speak openly and candidly about how they turned a certain age and then the phone stopped ringing. I think that's true, but it's not going to stop me. And I don't know why that happens. And giving it energy and trying to deconstruct why that happens, it's just not interesting to me. And I don't mean that in a way where I'm saying the feeling of being old and discounted isn't important. It is important. But we have the tools, and we have lots of people in our purview. One of the most wonderful things about the internet is that there are extraordinary women content makers who are talking about this stuff like we are today.
Yeah.
And so there's no one walking on that road alone. And what's fair and what's not fair. I just know what I can control. I can't control the negative.
Yeah.
I can't control the bullshit meter. We all have to live every day. And some mornings it's harder to get up than other mornings. But like, you know, if we look at the whole story up to now, you know, it's the things that got us down that are helping us stay positive today. I think that's one of my biggest lessons. Like going through clinical depression, that was the big aha moment when I came through it. I was like, this happened so that I have the tools to navigate the darkness when it comes again. So I'm thankful that I was depressed.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was the worst suffering I've ever experienced. But it happened so that I could be well and that I could impart any kind of wellness onto anyone else if they need help.
Beautifully said, yeah. One of the things that I loved that Mary Chapin said was, I don't know if you've gotten to this part of the conversation, so sorry if it's a spoiler, but she was talking about this press cycle that she's been on for this amazing new record. And some young journalist was like, so why are you still doing this?
Oh, really?
I'll let you, hear it for yourself what her response was. But what she got to when we were discussing it was like, I couldn't have written the songs that I wrote for this record when I was 20 or when I was 30 or even in my 40s. And I have much to say. Like, I want to speak to the experience of this season that I'm in right now.
One of my favorite Lucinda records is When the Spirit Meets the Bone.
Oh my God.
It is so
Yes.
cool. Like, I need protection, like compassion and like East Side of Town, like all these songs, they rock.
Yeah.
And there is a sort of maternal strength in her. I do not give a shit. This is where I am right now, and this is what I'm going to sing about. And that comes with age, and God love it. I mean, she is one of my heroes. And look, she's had a stroke, and she is still showing up, to play. Yeah. And her songs mean something to people. And look, on the way here to this interview today, I got in the elevator at the hotel with a couple who are in retirement age. And the gentleman said to me when I got in the elevator, he said, I had 2 suitcases. One of them's very large, people. And he was like, oh, you look like you're traveling for work, a working woman. He said, we're retired. Like, he was bummed. And I was like, I said, you sound bummed about it. He goes, well, I don't love being retired, but I don't really want to work either. And I think it's true. I think retirement and this idea that you work your whole life to be retired, I think for a lot of people, it's a huge letdown.
Yeah.
I love being busy and having purpose. And I have not walked in his shoes or their shoes. And I would find it really hard to go like, well, what am I supposed to do the rest of my time on this earth? What do you mean? Like, why do you still want to do this? Well, because life's interesting. Go out and do something. because it's wonderful that you can.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who can't. Do it for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thinking about Billionaire, what's an example of a song that I couldn't have written this, when I was in my 20s or my 30s? Like, that's like a gift of age song.
Ooh. Little Red Ranger is the song I love the most on the record. It's about being at a certain age in your life. It's in part about starting new chapters and realizing that you've already walked through the threshold and that the old chapter's already behind you and you didn't realize it until you stopped and went, hey, where am I? And you turn around and you're like, oh, all that stuff's back there. I've already moved on. I drew from, a few of my friends are recent empty nesters. And I don't have children, so I don't know what that feels like. But I can tell that it's been a very hard transition for them because, they made a lot of sacrifices in their adult life to be home and be with their kids. And they also, their priorities were so interconnected with their children. And to see them, go and then live their lives as adults is there's a whole new chapter that adults have to start in their life when they become empty nesters. And I can imagine it's very challenging. And there are all the hopes and dreams of your children is what makes you feel glad. And yet then you look in the mirror and go, okay, well, what's my life? What am I doing in my life now? And you have to probably sit uncomfortably for a little while and wonder what is your identity if you're not a day-to-day parent anymore. You're always a parent, but... So I think that's interesting, and I think that comes with age, and I moved to Florida, I did also really project when I was writing that song. I thought I was writing it about some of my friends, but I was also writing it about, I moved to a different country, and my parents, who I'm very close with, never once said, well, why would you want to move so far away? They saw it happening, and they didn't say anything, and then I realized, oh, that must have been hard for them to see me go, I'm not down the street anymore.
Right.
Yeah. But it's also a song about just giving it to the Toronto Maple Leafs fans, which is very, very validating. I truly feel rewarded every night. I sing The Leafs Still Suck at playoff time.
Windows down or two doors too well.
That's Little Red Ranger. Kathleen Edwards is our guest today on SHEROES. The new album is called Billionaire. I want to ask you a question, and feel free to pass if you don't want to talk about it. I've been talking to a lot of mothers and new mothers because the pandemic happened, so a lot of musicians who weren't touring decided, okay, I guess now. I don't have kids either. So it's just been like an interesting angle to explore on both sides. So this is the part where optional, talk about it, not talk about it, your journey with that.
Whew. I didn't think I would say this, but I'm going to tell you straight up. I think from a very young age, when I went into the music business, I was told that becoming a mother would be to the detriment of my career. And there are many times where I thought that that would not be an issue and I would just figure it out. And I was in several relationships where I was ready to become a mother with that person, and it didn't happen. And sometimes I was relieved, and sometimes I was devastated. And in the end, I got to a certain age where I knew I didn't want to become a mother anymore. Not because I didn't think I could, I just didn't want to. And so that's been my journey. I really always thought I would become a mother, and it didn't happen. I don't know the reasons why. I don't know if it was because I couldn't have children or it was just the way that the universe dealt me my cards. And I definitely think at times that when I am the same age as my friends who will become grandparents and enjoy a certain time in their life where their lives are about enjoying being with their children's children, that I will feel regret or that I'm missing out on something. And I have a lot of friends in music who have children, and they have a lot of help to do that. I think no matter what, when you have children, it's an extraordinary amount of commitment and work and hard and incredible love. I can't know. I just don't know what that is. And I have a lot of admiration for all these women who are trying to do both. So it just never happened for me. But I'll say candidly, I started my career in 2003. By 2008, I really wanted to become a mom. And I remember hearing a lot. And not just from even my own family. They told me, this is not something that I think you can do both. That's not fair. No one ever said you can't do both. But, I'm not going to say who these people were.
Yeah,
They're still people I'm very close to. And maybe they were right. Maybe I didn't want to be a mom. Maybe I would have become a parent and resented that my career had to take a long second seat. Maybe I like this more than I liked the idea of becoming a parent. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just am where I am, and I think it also makes me available to help people in other ways because I have the space, time, and energy in my life because I'm not caring for my own children.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. I mean,
Sorry to make you cry again.
That's okay. It's just early. I get really emotional in the mornings now. I don't know why. I kind of tap into all the big feelings, and then by the afternoon, I'm ready to play a rock show.
I can relate somehow, even though I'm not going to go play a big rock show.
Little rock show, sorry. I'm playing a little rock show. Let's be honest. That's a little rock show.
I remember a few years ago, I was at Newport, and it was the year that Nico Case was doing the trio with Katie Lang and Laura Veers called
so
Case Lang Veers.
good.
Dude. And I didn't conduct the interview. The late, great Rita Houston did, but I was a fly on the wall for it. So she sat with these three women. One's very much a mother, Laura Veers.
Mm-hmm.
Katie Lang is not a mother and gay, as we know. And then Nico Case, who is also not a mother and by choice. I don't even know actually how this came up in conversation, but I remember it stuck with me at the time because I went into early menopause at 40.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was no choice.
Yeah.
It was just over.
Yeah.
Even though it still would have been late, to have a kid. But so I remember Nico talking about how, like, as a woman, you still have the creative impulse, like in our bodies, to create. And if you're not going to birth a human, what else are you birthing? Like, you're going to be birthing something. And for her, it was, her music. But I kept thinking about, like, well, what are you birthing? What else are you birthing? Like, not to think of it as a lack necessarily, but like just a different path of birthing over and over again. I thought that was beautiful.
It's true. I think my coffee shop, I was the parent for many years of that establishment. I was the mother. And I was not a mother to my staff, but I was responsible for them. To them. I wasn't responsible for them. They were responsible for themselves. But I was responsible to them. And I curated and nurtured that place. I could have never done that as a parent. I would have not had the bandwidth to do it. I couldn't have committed that amount of time that was required to build what I built. So I think that's true. It's true. There are other creative endeavors.
It's been so awesome to hang with you today.
You too.
I want to give you a magic wand so that you can make a wish. This is my closing exercise.
Just give me a broom. Double toilet
Trouble.
Yeah, wand. I don't need a wand. I need a broom.
Here's a wand. Anyway. So the SHEROES magic wand is to imagine. Yeah, it's like a thing that I do at the end of the episode. Which, by the way, I found out, somebody told me once, since I started doing this, like, oh, did you know that that's a therapy technique? And I was like, no. They're like, yeah, some therapists do that at the end of their sessions where they say, like, if you had a magic wand, like, what would you change? I think this is a really nice way of leaving on a note of, like, I don't know, manifesting. We're all witches. What would you change, Kathleen Edwards, if you held the SHEROES magic wand, first thought, best thought, for women, for non-binary folks, queer folks, BIPOC folks, like anybody who doesn't have an equal voice yet or a platform in the music industry specifically? What would you change?
Oh, I don't know if I should say this.
Why?
I don't know. I just don't want it to be misinterpreted.
Oh, okay.
Everyone raves and sends accolades to Canada because we have these incredible government grants that go to arts initiatives, which they are incredible. There is no question, and I have been a recipient of that money. If I could change one thing, I would change that we need to empower people with information and tools rather than ideology. And that money should be spent on helping people understand how accounting works, how to protect their publishing rights, how to collect publishing revenues, how to find opportunities that are logistical solutions. I think that there are so many things I'm still doing catch up on because when I was 22, I got a manager and all these things just got done. And then I became an adult and didn't know how to do any of them once I didn't have those people in my corner. And I wish that there was a system like a school. And it's hard when you're a creative person to want to make time for things that are not creatively motivating.
Yes.
But if I could change one thing about any organization that is empowering the arts, do symposiums on the stuff that actually matters on the business front. And find ways to bring that into schools at a younger age, because I still don't know how to file my goddamn taxes, and I'm 47, and it makes me feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
Give people the training and tools that will help them understand how to navigate some of the really big basics. Because we just kind of throw up our hands, and then that's when we get overwhelmed by administrative not knowing how to handle things.
Right.
I would say that. I was in such a hurry, which is understandable, and we all are. That's the only thing I would say. Is I wish we were giving people actual tools to manage the real world instead of putting so much energy into, do you look the right way? Is the right representation here? Because I really believe that in my experience, we want that anyway. We all want good artists to walk through the door, but they also have to show up with their own tools to succeed. And to do that, we need to give people actual basic knowledge of how to manage business. And if you don't want to look at the ugly side of the arts, which is that you still got to pay people on time, and if you're in debt, you have to find a way to get out of debt, like I am. This is the reality.
Yeah.
And let's empower people to not feel like the most important thing is making a great record. That is the most important thing. We all know it. Being inclusive is the most important thing. Being respectful of ideas that may or may not be exactly what you see in the world is an important thing. Diversity is an important thing. Making sure that people who don't get chances to stand on stage get a chance to stand on stage to see if they like it or not is an important thing. That goes without saying. But the part that was really absent, I think is really absent, is the basics. Help people understand what publishing is.
Yes.
It's not simple. It's complicated. Help people understand how to read a contract, how to read a booking, when you get a booking at a club. A couple weeks ago, someone, posted like, they didn't pay us, and everyone was like, rah, rah, venue, and it was the artist's fault. It's like, if you read the contract, if you knew how to read contracts properly and you understood the breakdowns, you can decide if you are or aren't going to go there and do a show.
Right.
Merch settlements, all these things, they matter. Learn them, because I'm projecting right now, but I was behind on this. And it's important, if you're going to want to be empowered in this world, to have some of those tools. You need them. And if you don't, you're going to rely on other people and they will disappoint you. Whoa, that's a negative thing. Or some people rise to the occasion.
I love this, though. This is really actionable stuff.
Be empowered by having the information. Yes, you're fucking talented. But, withholding tax in this country is 30%. Like, you will be behind the eight ball, and IRS will smother you before you can even get through your first year of touring if you don't know what you're doing. Get people to empower you with the tools and knowledge you need to go out and be successful, not just artistically. You have to be, it's more than that.
How did you learn?
By failing, by constantly feeling like I was behind the eight ball. Actually, okay, this is actually really helpful. I hope this is helpful if we're talking about mentorship. After I exited my period of clinical depression through medication and help from a psychiatrist, one of the things that one particular doctor helped me with, I had just started my Quitters coffee shop, and I would come into my appointments feeling really exasperated and down. And she had me sort of fill out some sort of questionnaires, and I didn't really understand what she was asking me to fill out. But over time, a few appointments, I would fill these out, and then we would talk, and then I would leave. And one day I came into my appointment, and she said, I've been getting you to fill these things out. And she said, they're actually, for me, a way in which I can determine whether or not something like ADD is actually a factor in your life. And you have answered all these questions higher on the spectrum than an average person who doesn't have it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? I mean, I have ADD. What are you talking about? And she's like, well, maybe you do and maybe you don't. But all of the things that you're finding overwhelming in life would suggest that how you stay organized and manage your day-to-day responsibilities are very challenging to you. And maybe this is something worth investigating. It was a life changer because I always struggled with accounting. I couldn't get things on time, keeping appointments. I never had a system. And I didn't go to university. I barely graduated high school, was not a good student, but I was very motivated and successful in other aspects of my life. And she said, I have a suggestion for you. She said, it's an investment. So I'm not making an assumption that you could spend the money to do this, but maybe you should go see someone like a life coach. And she's referred me to someone. And she said, this person might actually be able to give you some coping tools to help you navigate the basics. And I took this leap of faith. I took her advice and I made the investment in myself. And I was 35, 36. And this person completely, the first appointment I went into, I bawled my eyes out. I didn't even realize I was going to go in and cry. She's like, why are you here? And I was like, because I can't fucking show up to an appointment on time. And I don't know how to do this. I'm behind and I'm in debt and this all this stuff. She goes, okay, this is what your life has been up until now. You have been this touring musician. You have this free-floating life. Other people did these jobs for you, blah, blah, blah. She said, I am going to give you the tools that are naturally how you want to navigate the world so that you can be on top of these things. So let me help you help yourself. And over a course of a few months and a few appointments, I gained tools and coping mechanisms to help me realize that I'm just really not naturally good at some things, like being on time and making sure that I am, writing something down with 8 alerts so I'm not late. And it was a practice. Like, I know that sounds kind of,
woo-woo,
a little yoga-y, which I love, by the way.
Yeah.
But I had to practice a certain system that she helped me that felt good for me. Now, this is maybe sounds like the most infantile kindergarten thing to you, but maybe to somebody listening right now will go, oh yeah, I'm telling you, ADD is really normal for creative types. It's why we're really good at jumping in and, creating things, but we're also really bad at some of life's sort of administrative necessities. And those things are important to stay on top of because if you don't, they will always be chasing you down the street and causing you to not enjoy the moment because you're behind. You're always late. You're always behind on your filings. There's something that you knew you had to do 2 months ago and you didn't get back to that guy. And that was my life until I went and saw this person. And it changed my life in the way that I also give myself a break when I realize that I'm not very good at some things in this life. I'm just not wired to thrive at certain types of things. They just take more time and more energy. And then I made peace with that. And I'm so less inhibited by all of the things I'm not good at. Because I'm not good at a lot of things. It was a life-changing thing, and it was one of the best pieces of advice I ever got as an adult. And still trying to talk my mom into realizing she has it too. But anyways, that's another podcast. And it just brought me a huge sense of relief and peace.
Yeah. Wow.
It's huge. And my mother, when I told her, I said, I think my doctor told me today of ADD. She's like, you don't have ADD. You went and played violin very well for 10 years. And I was like, I don't think that means I do or don't. And then I saw the signs of of course, yes. And it's not an excuse. It's not I have this thing, so I can't do that. It was this is harder for me because I'm just not wired in a certain way. I'm easily distracted. I'm the person who goes and boils a pot of water and then 20 hours later, I'm like, what's that smell? That's me. That's me. So then I'm like, I have to pay attention to things in a way to not feel like I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's power tools, man. Power tools.
Dude, again, this is another podcast, but I feel like there's a lot here that could help a lot of people.
I'm telling you, I have almost all the answers. The other ones I'm still looking for through the dense forest of life. Still working on it. But every day, nothing's a waste. That's the other thing. I realized, like, when I was writing this record, I was so prolific in a way that I had never been before.
Really?
And it was because with this new mindset, I was like, nothing is a waste of time. Even the things that don't go anywhere, at least you're ruminating. You're working on something. It's better than nothing. So don't be so hard on yourself to discount, like, the genius moment. It didn't happen. You're like, yeah, but all of these little fragments of something might become something. So I'm really, even shows or tours that are like, this wasn't great or that wasn't great. There's always a silver lining. There's always something that is useful, even if it's like, I never want to do that again. That is a useful thing to know. Anyways.
Okay. I'm so fucking grateful to you, Kathleen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to show up. Thank you for all of your wisdom. Thank you for this new record, Billionaire. I love it so much. How do we go out today? This is such a big convo.
Can I for a second go out? Carmel?
Yeah.
You do this incredible thing. Everyone thinks, oh, everyone has a podcast. Not everyone has a fucking podcast. It takes an incredible amount of time. You research all of your guests. You edit your programs. And by the way, I would just say, I'm looking at your little podcast mixer. Do you know that's like someone speaking Latin to me right now? I have no idea how you use that. I am so impressed that you edit and know how to do, please take credit where credit is due. And you get people to come on your show and you amplify voices. It's a huge commitment of time with no sense of whether or not it's going to land. There's no financial security in this line of work you do. There's no pot of gold waiting for you. Like, Oprah's not calling. She's not calling me. She's not calling you, because you and I are Oprahs. We are our own Oprahs. And I would like to close the show by saying thank you for doing this good work, because one of these conversations, if only one conversation that you have had with somebody resonated with one of your listeners and gave them something positive, it was worth it. And I love you. And we all love you. And thank you.
I love you.
Signing off, this is Kathleen Edwards on SHEROES. Everybody, Carmel Holt.
Thank you, Kathleen.
The great goddess of Kingston's radio scene.
I'm going to go out with Little Pink Door, if you don't mind.
Do it. We all have them.
But you were wrapping me up at the little pink door.
Love you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Love you.
Massive thanks once again to Kathleen Edwards for joining us. The new album, Billionaire, is available now on Dualtone Records. Catch Kathleen out on tour this October and early November. Go to KathleenEdwards.com for details. SHEROES is produced by me, is mixed and mastered by Kelly Drake. Our original theme music is by Lucius. Our podcast is distributed by Talkhouse. SHEROES is also a nationally syndicated radio show. Please visit SHEROESradio.com to find out more. Keep in touch on Instagram at SHEROES Radio, and please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, SHEROES Productions. SHEROES is 100% independent and is made possible through the support of our public radio affiliates and now listeners like you. Through a new partnership with the nonprofit AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio, we've launched our very first fundraising campaign. Text SHEROES to 53555. That's SHEROES to 53555 to make a tax-deductible donation through AIR or visit SHEROESradio.com. Thank you for supporting independent, femme, and queer-produced audio and storytelling. And until next time, remember, music is our superpower. I'm Carmel Holt. Thanks for listening. Also from SHEROES Productions, take a journey on the road to Joni, an Ambie Award-nominated 10-episode series celebrating the legacy and impact of Joni Mitchell. Distributed by Talkhouse. Subscribe now to The Road to Joni wherever you get your podcasts.